Let's start with the SEC. My first oddly specific prediction for the SEC, maybe a hot take, maybe a controversial one. It'll be a big story if it happens. Alabama starts 3 different quarterbacks in games this season. Tyler Buchner, Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson. That is a position that obviously Alabama did not feel good about coming out of fall camp, so they went and got Buchner from the portal, from Notre Dame. Charlie Weiss Jr. is the offensive. I'm sorry, Tommy Rees is the offensive coordinator there now. And in general, I'm wondering if this ends up being a big Alabama step back season because we haven't seen them lack these skill players like they have this year. Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs carried that offense last year, and now you don't have a Heisman Trophy winner quarterback. So I think they have some bumps. I think Alabama starts 3 quarterbacks. What about you?
I don't disagree. In fact, that was actually something I mentioned in my column that'll be running in The Athletic. I predicted the same exact one, and so I agree with you 100%. I think this is the kind of year where Alabama really doesn't have a guy going into the season as far as separating himself, I think, from the rest of the pack. I think Buchner will get the job out of camp because he's run that offense before at Notre Dame and he's familiar with it. But ultimately, I could see this job changing hands multiple times, and I think it's an interesting storyline certainly to follow here. One fact that I threw out there, I think it's been at least 10 years. I got to look this up in the article, but it's been more than 10 years since Alabama has lost 3 games in a single season. But so I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, that they're going to lose 3 or more games. But certainly I could see 3 quarterbacks starting, and I think they're going to win a lot of games with defense this year.
What about you? What's one of your SEC predictions?
Well, this one's kind of interesting. Brock Bowers, everybody loves Brock Bowers. I've heard Stu Mandel talk about how he might be the best player in college football. I think this year we're all going to buy into the Brock Bowers hype. I think he's going to become the first 2-time Mackey Award winner and finish in the top 3 in the Heisman race. I did look this up. We have not had a tight end finish in the top 3 of the Heisman race since 1977. So it's been a long time. And so I'm calling for Brock Bowers. He's a special talent. He'll be one of the top 5 picks in the NFL draft, I think, next year. I think he finishes in the top 3 of the Heisman race.
I like it. Top 3. That's even more specific than one of the ones I was going to have because top 3 is tough. But we are in the era of the tight end. You look at what's going on in the NFL. Like that is the big offensive weapon now. Carson Beck probably taking over at quarterback at Georgia. That's a pretty good safety valve guy to hit, a guy who can play like a receiver, can spread them out. Big Brock Bowers fan here. I like that. Mine, I guess, my next one is similar, but not as spicy. Joe Milton taking over at quarterback at Tennessee. He finishes top 5 in the Heisman. Really like that Josh Heupel offense. It's an offense that throws the ball deep. And if there's one thing Joe Milton can do at Tennessee or wherever, is throw the ball deep. So obviously you don't have Jalen Hyatt there. You got some receiver changes, but Joe Milton going to explode onto the scene with a rocket for an arm. And I'll say he finishes top 5 in the Heisman. Not as spicy as yours, but I'm really excited to see what he does there.
Yeah, I think Joe Milton is, he's going to keep that fab freshman Nico Iamaleava on the bench, the 5-star that they signed. I think Milton's going to start the whole season. I'm picking Tennessee to have a 10-win season. But I think the key to it all is actually going to be Brew McCoy, which comes to my second SEC prediction. I'm predicting Brew McCoy finished 2nd in the race for the Biletnikoff Award this year. I think he's going to have a monster year replacing Jalen Hyatt. I think Tennessee's going to be great, but I think Brew McCoy is going to get the bulk of that credit because just what a tremendous talent he is.
I could not believe, for the year that Jalen Hyatt had, I could not believe he didn't get a NIL deal with Hyatt until December 6th. I was looking this up. It was December 6th. They announced an NIL deal with him. That's the end of the season. How did you not get Jalen Hyatt onto a Hyatt NIL deal later? Maybe with Brew McCoy, I guess you can't do alcohol sponsorships, but find an NIL deal, because if Brew McCoy's finishing 2nd in the Biletnikoff, he's going to have a lot of long touchdown passes. My third and final SEC oddly specific prediction: Jimbo Fisher takes back play calling in the 2nd game of the season. When they're at Miami, September 9th. We're going to see if these two personalities can work together to fix that offense. I think it could be a really good Texas A&M offense. I like the quarterback situation they have. They have really good receivers. But if things are struggling, is Jimbo Fisher going to be able to stop himself from taking over? We saw this with Gus Malzahn, remember? Multiple times he would give up the play calling to Rhett Lashley at Auburn only to take it back. Like head coaches who call plays have a hard time giving it up, and when they do, they sometimes take it back. So I'm going to say Jimbo Fisher takes the play calling back, and he does it 2 games into the season.
It's funny. You and I are like on the same wavelengths. I didn't say he would take the play calling back, but I said there would be sort of a public display of conflict between him and Bobby Petrino in the Miami game. I did pick the Aggies to win that game without scoring a point in the second half. But I think ultimately that marriage is going to work out. And here's why I think it's going to work out. Because they've got Connor Wegman throwing the football. I think him and Evan Stewart are going to put up some huge numbers this year. And I expect the Aggies to be much improved. So I like your take. I think it's a possibility Jimbo takes back the play calling. I wouldn't rule it out. But I think ultimately here, he's going to give in to Bobby Petrino in large part because of the work he's going to do with Connor Wegman.
All right. What's your last SEC one?
This one's kind of easy. I really like LSU's team this year. I don't have them making the playoff, but I've got Harold Perkins winning the Butkus Award and tying Dallas Turner for the SEC lead in sacks with 13. So I got Perkins. Look, he's such a phenomenal talent. I know he's moving inside to middle linebacker this year. He really was in a huge playmaking role on the outside spot, but I think he's going to be the key to LSU getting back to the SEC championship game, winning the SEC West. I think the offense is going to be better this year, but ultimately it's going to be Perkins, who continues to be one of the best players in college football. So I've got him winning the Butkus.
Very rare instances where a defensive player straight up wins you the game. I think a lot of us can say that, what Harold Perkins did to Arkansas last year on that game, where LSU really struggled to move the ball. Perkins, I don't remember how many sacks he had, but that dude was unguardable, and he's going to be one of the most exciting defensive players to watch in the country this year, no doubt.